Reaching the highest rank in Master Duel is tedious, but not necessarily difficult, given that you have the time, the patience, and most importantly of all, a good deck. This is made a lot easier via the tools offered in-game, such as the crafting mechanic and the ability to buy gems. Thanks to these features alone, building any tier 1 deck is possible with a few clicks of a mouse. However, this doesn't apply to me. I've decided to take on the ultimate Master Duel challenge. Starting off with 3 structure decks and a budget of 1500 gems per episode, I'll be attempting to climb the competitive Master Duel ladder till I reach Master Rank 1. No crafting, nor buying gems. I'll have to solely rely on my ability to outplay my opponent and the luck of the pool. This is Master Duel from scratch. Hey guys, and welcome back to Master Duel from scratch. Last episode we did really well with our newly improved ritual deck. We went ahead and ended the episode with a record of 8-2, and at that we faced up against some really tough opponents, so this record was a very pleasant surprise. However, the deck is still in need of some more powerful staples in order to compete with the higher tiers. That being said, I feel like that should be the main focus for today's pack opening. As we learned from last episode, the deck has some legs to stand on, and this ritual strategy we cooked up seems to be fairly viable at the moment. So if we can reinforce this deck with some more powerful staples, that should be enough to carry us at least to platinum for now. That being said, why don't we go ahead and stop by the shop and try and upgrade this deck. Alright, so here we are again at the card shop looking at the bundle packs, and I think that for today's episode we're gonna go ahead and open up the Solemn Judgment pack. One of the main issues in our deck so far is that we don't have that many powerful staples so far. The last 2 episodes we went ahead and tried to remedy this with the addition of Infinite Impermanence and Ash Blossom. And for today's episode, I think that Judgment is a perfect addition to the deck, since we're trying to control the duel with the boards that we create with either Magician of Chaos or Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. And I feel like Solemn Judgment just fits in perfectly. It's a fantastic turn 1 card, and it's not the worst top deck if in a top decking situation. That being said, let's go ahead and crack open 10 packs of the Solemn Judgment pack. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so this looks not great. We only have 4 hollows here. Oh man, it's gonna be rough. Alright, pack 1. Let's see what we have. Let's see. Okay. Wow, this is pretty bleak. I don't really see anything worthwhile here. What's our hollow though? Madolce Pudding Cess. We can't really use this. Alright. Not a great pack 1. Let's see. Hopefully we can do better. Oh, we have a hidden hollow here. Okay. What's this? Soul Devouring Bamboo Sword. We're not gonna be using the bamboo cards actually. Don't worry about that. Daruma Dropper. Nope, never mind. Let's see. Sports cards. This is a really cool archetype, but we can't really use it. Oh, wait, Dogmatica Calamity. Okay, we keep on getting really good Dogmatica cards, but we still haven't unlocked the Dogmatica pack. Is this even a pack actually? Now that I think about it. Dang, okay. So far, we haven't really unlocked anything worthwhile. What's our hollow though? To me. Okay, so nothing we can use so far. Alright, pack 3. Please give us something usable. Man, this is pretty bleak though so far. We haven't really gotten anything worthwhile. Pack 4. Okay, this is the hollow pack. Hopefully we unlock a good secret pack with this. Fusion tag. That's interesting. Target one monster you control, reveal 1 feature monster from the extract, and if you do, that targeted monster's name becomes Spriggan's Rocky. Nah. Zeta. No, nothing usable here. Okay, not seeing anything worthwhile at the moment. Yeah, this is not looking great so far. Oh, okay. So we have 2 hollows here. So we have Vendra Daybreak. Spirit of the Fall Wind. There's no card that. Nope, not worth adding to the deck. Fujin card, Machina card, Toga. Okay, what's our hollows though? Spellbook of Master. We've been getting quite a few spellbook cards, so maybe we can add them as a small engine, but we'll have to see. Agent of Mystery Earth. Added. Okay. I don't think we have enough agent cards. That might even be our first to make that playable, but okay. So far this is looking very bleak. We haven't added a single like playable card to the deck, and honestly, that's been the main issue for our deck. We don't have that many playable one-ofs, or not playable one-ofs, the playable staples. Yeah, nothing here is usable. Branded Banishment. Wait, does that unlock branded? Okay, target one Despia monster or one level 8 or higher feature monster in your graveyard, special summon it, then apply this effect, feature summon one. Maybe. If this unlocks branded or Despia, that'd be fantastic. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Cloud Guardian Bonding, oh! Indigo Eclipse, not a horrible card. The Mekk-Knights aren't bad. But just one of them, okay. Holy crap, so we've unlocked nothing really. Okay, everything. This, yeah, no, this is a bad pack. Not really anything. I mean, we have Dyna Hero for hire, but it's a for hire card. We can't really play those cards. Oh boy. Yeah, today's pack opening has not been great. Wow. Man, this has been the worst pack opening to date. This, I mean, at least we got Judgment, I guess. Man, honestly, I don't think we're gonna be adding anything from today's pack opening to the deck. Like, yeah, there wasn't a single card worth adding so far. Oh wow. Okay. Let me take a quick look at the packs we unlocked before we make a decision for today's episode. All right, so I'm back now. So after taking a quick look at all the packs we unlocked for today's episode, the two that popped out to me specifically were the opening act of Apocalypse and the Alba Albus pack. So what do we have to offer from each of these packs? So specifically this pack, we get cards like Aluber Gesture of Despia, which is a fantastic card for the Despia branded strategy. And the main issue with this pack is that there's a lot of great cards, but if we open like the Dark Lord cards, I don't see us doing all that much with them. So for today's episode, instead, I'm going to be opening the Alba Albus pack. So what does this pack open for us or provide for us? First off, we have access to a bunch of fantastic fusion monsters. More specifically, Mirror Jade. This card is unbelievably broken. And not only that, but if we pull in the high end, we can pull cards like Nadir Servant, Ecclesia, Branded Fusion, the list continues. There's a lot of great cards we can pull. And even on the low end, we can pull cards like Dogmatic Punishment, which if I were just to pull a playset of these, I'd be set. So that being said, I feel like it's a no-brainer that we have to unlock, we have to open this pack. I feel like I'll be happy if we pull 2 to 3 copies of Punishment and like a copy of Ecclesia, and I'll be set with that. If Konami wants to be, you know, generous with me, I'll also take like a Fallen Albaz, Nadir Servant, and Mirror Jade. I kind of feel like this is the best direction our deck can be taking for today's episode. So with that being said, let's get into the pack opening. So 7 packs of Alba Albus coming right up. Pack number 1. All right, let's see. Okay, we have a holo for the first pack, but is that holo on the correct side? All right. Okay, we have a holo, at least a super rare on the correct side. So what do we have going on here? Nothing. Okay. Branded Central Dogmatica. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, guys. A lot of these Dogmatica Despia cards, like the common and rares, I'm not gonna be very familiar with. So, okay. Spriggan's Merrymaker. It's not a bad card. However, it's not the holo I wanted to see. Hold up. That unlocked the... Oh, wow, okay. Change of plans. We are now opening 6 packs of Echo Chamber Nation. Okay, yeah, we're opening this now. 6 packs. Okay, no holo. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, well, we have a secret holo, but it's not on the correct side. Karas, Tri Brigade, oh, Arcane Magician. It's a good synchro monster. I just don't think we can make this, at least not consistently. All right. Honestly, if we can pull out a Tri Brigade core, that might not be the worst thing ever. Okay, so 5 more packs. Honestly, I'm not asking for a lot. I'm kind of just looking for the Dogmatica punishments and maybe an Ecclesia. Oh, okay. Kind of wish that's Ultra Rose on the other side, but okay. Crystal Rose, Lila. Oh, okay. Tri Brigade Standoff, Dogmatica Calasm. Okay, what's our Ultra Rare? Don't care. Okay, Super Rare. Spriggan's Watch. I keep on pulling Spriggan's cards. I don't want these cards. Okay. 4 more packs. Man, I'm gonna be upset if I don't pull at least one punishment here. Amazement. Okay. Please. Man, okay. This is not looking great. 3 more packs. As I said, I'm looking for at least just punishment. Like, I'm not asking for a lot here. Okay, Banquet of Millions, Darklord Descendant. Oh, Tri Brigade Revolt. It's not like we haven't pulled that many Tri Brigade cards, but that's a good card to have if we end up pulling. Oh, okay, Fractal. We're getting there, I guess. Okay. All right, we're on our last 2 packs, and this has been a very bleak episode thus far. Okay, so can we end on at least 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment? That's like all we're looking for. Spirit Message L, Dual Avatar, Old Entity. I'm not gonna pronounce that. What is this? Allied Justice Cosmic Gateway, not a good card. Okay, Genesis, Calamity. You see, if we were to even pull the Dogmatica Ritual Monsters and or like a good Dogmatica package, this would be fantastic because this is a great ritual spell. God damn it. Okay, wrong trap card, by the way. Okay, so this has been a awful episode for us today. It's starting off at a bad start. We're in the last pack here. Oh, we're ending on a holo at least. I mean, and that's on the wrong side. Okay, whatever. Dark Lord, Clayman, Perform Pal Monster, Dogmatica Encounter, Spriggan's Spranga, Dogmat, Fractal. Okay, wow, not even 1 punishment. What's our holo though? Fortune Vision, so a Fortune Lady card. Okay, well, bad episode, bad start. We'll figure something out. Okay, all right, I'll see you at the deck build. Alright, here we're at the deck profile, and we're pretty much running up last episode's deck with minimal changes. The biggest change for today's deck is the fact that we went ahead and added Solemn Judgment. Besides that, in addition, we also ended up cutting out Magic Lies Fusion and Neospatian Grand Mole. For the most part, those cards weren't doing all that much in our deck, and I kind of want to focus primarily on the ritual aspect of the deck for today's episode. But besides that, it's essentially the same thing. Of course, that being Dark Magician, Magician Souls, Magician's Rod, Ash Blossom, Manju, Dark Magician Girl, Hishtira Ogre, Magician of Chaos, Illusion of Chaos, Raigeki, Reborn, Dark Magic Attack, Ayatamayas, Magician Salvation, Chaos Form, Dark Magic Circle, Illusion Magic, Soul Servant, Secret of Dark Magic, Bottomless Trap Hole, Infinite Impermanence, Solemn Judgment, and lastly, Eternal Soul. The extra deck for today's episode is pretty much the same one we used for the last episode. We're still playing Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, the Dark Magicians, Master of Chaos, Quintet Magician. We went ahead and added Arcanite Magician that can be made with using Ash Blossom and Manju the 10,000 Hands. Will it come up? Probably not, but it's still there. We went ahead and kept Bestial Dispart. We have Cross Sheep, Deco Talker, Traffic Ghost, and Rastaliger. As I said, we made minimal changes for today's episode, so there's not all that much to cover, so why don't we just get into the duels. Duel 1, I found myself facing off against a Bestial Albaz Sword Soul deck or something along those lines, where all my opponent ended up doing on their turn was special summoning a copy of Bestial Magna Hut
and searching for a copy of Felon Albast, a board that's not that difficult to contest. As for me, my hand's actually looking fairly decent, and I end up drawing into the Solemn Judgment I pulled from the bundle pack today. For my turn, I don't do all that much, but I do end up with a Dark Magician in the graveyard with a face-up Circle, Eternal Soul set, and a Secrets of Dark Magic set as well. Not bad. I pass my turn and my opponent draws. On their turn, things got a bit rough. They normal summoned the Fallen Albast they searched off last turn, and I chain my Eternal Soul, so I can try and banish it. But at the same chain, I also activate my Solemn Judgment, not realizing what I've done. I end up negating and destroying my Eternal Soul, costing me pretty much the entire duel. Man, making the mistake this costly so early on feels really bad, especially since the duel seemed fairly easy to take, and I could have realistically gone and beat my opponent. But oh well, mistakes happen, you know. It's now duel 2 and my hand's looking pretty good. It actually lets me do quite a bit. I end on a field of the Dark Magicians backed up with an Eternal Soul, Dark Magic Circle, and a Secret of Dark Magic that I can then use to ritual summon into the Magician of Chaos. I'd say this is pretty much the best board this deck can create. My opponent begins their turn with the activation of Spellbook of Knowledge, searching out a Spellbook library, and normal summon a monster. At this very point, I activate my Eternal Soul to banish their monster and ritual summon into Magician of Chaos, which at that very point my opponent decides to scoop since they knew the duel was pretty much over. Alright, nice and easy duel. This is a great bounce back from that embarrassing duel 1. Alright, let's keep this going. During duel 3, I faced off against Galaxy Eyes. My opponent went first and my hand wasn't looking all that great. Now, I won't bore you with all the tedious moves and details as to what exactly my opponent did during their turn, because they did quite a bit. But at the end of the turn, they ended on a board of Galaxy Eyes Cypher X Dragon, which prevents me from targeting light monsters. They also had a copy of number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, which negates monster effects, and if they detached a Galaxy Eyes card, they can destroy a monster. And finally, they also had a Galaxy Eyes Soul Flare Dragon, which is a link to with the ability to destroy my special summon monsters by discarding 2 cards. Needless to say, they had quite a bit going on, and I needed to find a way to deal with it all. I began my turn with the effect of Magician Souls to try and special summon Dark Magician. However, my opponent quickly stops this by activating the effect of number 90. I then proceed to normal summon Magician's Rod to see if I could get a copy of Illusion of Magic. Now with 2 Dark Magicians in my hand, I can now summon the Dark Magicians. However, I quickly forget that Soul Flare Dragon has the ability to destroy the Dark Magicians. They destroy it, and then I get to special summon both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl from my deck. However, this is where I make my first big mistake of this duel. Instead of summoning Dark Magician Girl in face-up attack position, I summon her in face-up defense, which prevents me from destroying another monster on their field. With not much else to do, I set a Solemn Judgment and pass my turn. It's now my opponent's turn, and they proceed to make another big board with a bunch of big old Xyz monsters. They have minimal issues clearing my board and leave me with pretty much nothing. Looking at my hand and what my opponent has on their field, I know that this is pretty much over. There was literally nothing else I could do at this point of the duel, since every possible move I made, my opponent could easily counter with the board state they had. And that's pretty much how game 3 ends. I will admit, looking at these duels in hindsight, I'm realizing that I've made a ton of misplays so far, and this is kinda due because I was sleep deprived when I did these duels. But I'm not here to make any excuses, so let's continue with the rest of the duels. We're now on duel 4 and my hand doesn't look half bad at all. I begin with the normal summon a Rod and search out for my fusion spell, and then I get to fusion summon into the Dark Magicians using both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. With both cards in the graveyard, I then use the effect of Soul Servant to get a draw 3, thanks to the effect of my fusion monster. By the end of my turn, I end on a board state of Circle, Eternal Soul, and a Bottomless Trap Hole. Not half bad. My opponent begins with the normal summon of Fallen Albast, at which point I decide that maybe Bottomless is good here. I end up activating it, destroying and banishing their Fallen Albast, at which point my opponent quickly scoops because I guess they couldn't recover from that very move. Okay, after that loss, we get another win. Okay, let's get these wins a little more consistently now. As you can see, my opponent wasn't playing a bad deck. I don't know how they weren't able to recover from that one Bottomless. Alright, well, let's continue. During Duel 5, I faced off against Blackwing, a deck that I feel very comfortable facing off against. However, looking at my hand, things weren't looking all too hot. By the end of my opponent's turn, they end on a board of 3 Blackwing monsters that honestly do nothing on their own. So things are looking pretty good. I begin the turn with the normal summon of Magician's Rod, at which point my opponent negates it with a Blackwing monster in their hand. I honestly didn't even know Blackwings had the ability to negate monster effects. Well, the more you know, I suppose. Unfortunately, that one negate proved to be far too much for my deck to handle, so I end up passing on Rod with a set bottomless trap hole. My opponent then begins their turn and takes the opportunity to summon a crap ton of Blackwing monsters to their field, and swiftly take me out. That one interruption with bottomless was nowhere near enough to save me this turn. I don't know what it is about today, but my deck feels significantly weaker than last episode, even though we're running essentially the same thing. Weird. Duel 6 was unbelievably bleak, with me opening up my hand that could do absolutely nothing. So I ended up having to pass my turn on an empty field, an ash in hand, and a prayer that I'll maybe survive the turn. And what do you know, I'm face off against a Blue Eyes player using Bestios in their deck? Oh boy, they might actually be competent. After they end up comboing off, they end on a board of the Zombie Vampire and Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy. They use the effect of the Zombie Vampire to send the top 4 cards of both our decks to the graveyard, and pass their turn. At this point, I realized that my opponent didn't realize that they didn't go first, and that they could have attacked me, but we'll take that. I begin the turn with the activation of Soul Servant to get access to Magician Souls. My deck's in desperate need of a place starter. As soon as I summon Magician Souls to my field and use the effect to draw deeper into my deck, my opponent decides to activate a imperm they had set the turn prior. This one interaction is enough to end my turn completely. Holy crap. This is unbelievable. Every single duel so far, the slightest interruption my opponent seems to have is catastrophic for my deck. I need to fix this at some point. At this point, with nothing pretty much stopping my opponent, they perform a few plays and end with summoning my Dark Magician from my graveyard and a copy of Access Code Talker with 5300 attack points. But somehow they miss lethal. I have no clue how, but this gives me one last turn to see if I can try and salvage this duel. But let's face it, there's no way I'm winning this duel, especially with how badly this deck has been breaking today. So I end up having to take that loss. This episode isn't looking too good for me. At this point, I feel like I'd be lucky to get to 500 by the end of the episode. But let's continue. We're 6 duels deep now. We have 4 more to go. We're now on the 7th duel of the episode, and things are looking pretty bleak right from the get-go. Our hand looks nowhere near playable, so I begin the turn by activating Soul Servant to stack a copy of Salvation to thin out the deck just a bit. After this, I activate a copy of Circle, at which point my opponent decides to ash me, causing me to end my turn completely. To my surprise, my opponent's also piloting Dark Magicians, and it seems like their deck is way better than mine. However, they don't accomplish all that much on their turn, just summoning Magician's Rod and setting a couple back rows to assist it. It's my turn again, and I draw Salvation, which lets me set up my Eternal Soul. Unfortunately, this is all I can do for my turn, so I'm forced to pass it back to my opponent. On my opponent's turn, it doesn't seem like they had any more playable cards, so they just proceed to attack me with Magician's Rod. This gets me another turn to try something else. I draw for turn and draw into the best card of my deck, that being Magician Souls. I use the effect of Magician Souls to special summon Dark Magician, banishing the Eternal Soul they had set. I then tribute Dark Magician to get 2 more copies of it using Illusion Magic. After accomplishing this, I'm then allowed to special summon the Dark Magicians using those 2 newly drawn Dark Magician monsters. With Dark Magician in the grave, I'm then allowed to activate Eternal Soul to summon Dark Magician back to the graveyard, and things are looking pretty good. I sink in for a bunch of damage and pass it back to my opponent. On my opponent's turn, there's a lot of back and forth between the two of us, and things are not looking all that great for me. My opponent has a ton of very powerful cards that are very hard to contest with the very mediocre cards that I have. At the end of our scuffle, they end on the board of Dark Magician on their field, while I still have my Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. It's my turn again, and I draw into another circle, which I end up using immediately to get a copy of Servant. And this duel is as good as over. With the activation of Servant, this allowed me to set up a play where I'm then able to special summon Magician of Chaos, which is then able to clear my opponent's entire field, pretty much giving me an easy victory. Alright, despite our very mediocre play so far, it's good to see that I'm still able to beat other Dark Magician decks.
let's move on to the last 3 duels of the episode. We're now on the last 3 duels of the episode and I need to get things together. I've only won 3 duels so far, and if I can win these last 3, I can still end the episode with a winning record. Anyway, as you can see, I did a whole bunch of stuff on my turn, but in reality it didn't really accomplish all that much. I did end on a board of Circle, Eternal Soul, and Dark Magician with 1 more in hand to summon it off Eternal Soul. It's now my opponent's turn and they've revealed that they're playing Infernity, with cards that I've never seen before. I do bid my time and wait for the most opportune moment to activate the effect of Eternal Soul, since this is my only way of interacting with my opponent. They then summon a card that I do recognize in Infernity Archfiend, which I then decide to banish it since I feel like this is a choking point for their deck. Once I do this, my opponent immediately scoops, and that's GG's. Alright, 2 wins in a row. Let's see if we can keep this pace going. It's now Duel 9 and I get paired up against dinosaurs, and I'll admit, this isn't a great matchup for me. Dinosaurs are far too aggro for this deck. On their turn, my opponent goes about and performs a crap ton of plays to end on a board of Evilzord Dolka, which has the ability to negate monster effects and it's not even once per turn. Alongside Dolka, they also have a face-up Petite Pteranodon and a Transcendosaur Xyz monster that isn't too relevant at the moment. Luckily, my opening hand wasn't looking all that bad. I begin the turn with the activation of Circle and Excavate for a Dark Magician. I then try to bait out the Dolka negate with the normal summon of Magician's Rod. After the bait was successful, I then chained Secrets of Dark Magic to see if I could dodge the negate, but didn't realize that Dolka targeted and negated, so Rod's effect was still negated. I summoned the Dark Magicians and should have just entered battle phase to destroy that Dolka, but unfortunately for me, I didn't read the full effect of Dolka and didn't realize that it wasn't a once per turn negate. I stupidly chained Soul Servant, triggering the effect of my future monster to draw me 1 more card. At which point my opponent responds with Dolka negating and destroying my monster. But at that same moment, my opponent had also chained the effect of Meteorus in hand, popping the baby dino and summoning Pankratrops to the field. Oof, things are looking pretty bleak right now. I continue my turn and struggle to construct a board that comes anywhere near competing with what they have on field. By the end of my turn, all I am able to accomplish is destroying their Dolka, which has no materials left on it. As soon as I pass my turn, my opponent gets immediately to work to generate a board that's far too much pressure for me to handle, by summoning cards like Ultimate Tyranno, Pankratrops, alongside the 2 big old dinosaurs they already had prior. Needless to say, they made quick work of me. Well, I guess I can't end the episode on a winning record, but at least I can still tie it if I end my last duel with a win. Well, I guess let's aim for at least 500 then. We're now on the last duel of the episode, and I go up against Gishki Sprite. What the actual hell? These are 2 archetypes that I cannot stand, each for their own separate reason. My opponent of course goes first, and after waiting what feels like an eternity for them to end their turn, they end on a field of Sprite Elf, who can protect the monster it points to, IP Masquerena, which is able to link into Nightmare Unicorn, who can spin a card back into my deck, Sprite Carrot, and Red, who can negate spell and trap card effects, and the other can negate monster effects. Yeah, this is manageable. I begin the turn with the activation of Circle, which gets negated. I then use the effect of Illusion of Chaos in hand, which gets ashed. I finally normal summon Manju, and you'll never guess what happens. It got negated as well. After being stopped 3 separate times, I'm forced to end my turn with 2 set cards. On my opponent's turn, they perform a few Gishki plays and summon their ritual monster, which is some big old whale. They proceed to the battle phase and attack me. I then take the opportunity right here to flip over my Mirror Force card to bounce back everything back to their hand. But of course this proves to be fruitless since my opponent easily rebuilds their entire board all over again, despite the activation of both my trap cards. It's my turn again and I need to find some way to win this duel. I begin the turn with the activation of Illusion of Chaos in hand, and oh my god, I get ashed again. I use the effect of Dark Magic Circle and it gets negated again. At this point I am near tears from the frustration of this duel, and I am just about ready to scoop it up and just call it a day, but I end up toughing it out and just seeing the duel to the bitter end. I end my turn and it's my opponent's turn once again, and with me literally having no form of protection, they make quick work of me. and that's all she wrote. Well, that was quite the experience. I knew our deck was a bit lackluster going into this, but this is ridiculous. I never would have guessed that we would have done this poorly. So with that, this concludes Master Duel from Scratch, episode 4. And I've gotta say, this was quite the episode. I went into this episode expecting to do way better than this, but oh boy, was I ever wrong. We really need to figure out something, anything for this deck, and quickly. Even though I know that some of the duels that I lost today were because of my bad decision making and or my misplays, it's still hard to ignore the fact that this deck is hyper fragile and extremely vulnerable to any of my opponent's interactions. And don't get me wrong, I expect to get affected by my opponent's interactions, but it was so bad today that literally any interaction from my opponent was more than enough to derail my entire strategy and just cause me to end my turns with literally nothing. Hence why we ended today's episode with a record of 4-6. However, stay tuned for the next episode of the series where I try and fix this train wreck of a mess we have going on right now. But if you enjoyed today's episode and want to follow me on this journey to see the evolution of this deck, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if this is the first episode of the series that you're watching, then click right here to catch the entire playlist and start from the beginning. But with that, I've been Topsy. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to our next encounter. Bye.